Debates over the NHL's all-time greats have gone on for decades, whether it be the greatest to play a given position, play for a specific team, or excel at a certain aspect of the game. The greatest to wear any specific jersey number is no different. Some numbers have been worn by multiple Hall of Famers and Stanley Cup champions, while others were only worn by a handful of players. This is the greatest NHL player of all time for every jersey number. By the way, there will be no honorable mentions. We already have 101 players to get into. 00 John Davidson. Only 2 players have ever worn the 00s in the NHL. John Davidson wore it for the New York Rangers during the 1977-78 season, appearing in 34 games and posting an .899 save percentage. Martin Biron also wore 00, but only for 3 games. More on him later. 0 Neil Sheehy. There has only been one player to wear a single 0 in NHL history. That man is Neil Sheehy. He wore the number for 1 season with the Hartford Whalers in 1987-88, where he scored just 5 points. Number 1, Jacques Plante. Many goalies have worn the number 1, but Jacques Plante stands above them all with his 7 Vezina trophies and 6 Stanley Cups as a member of the Montreal Canadiens dynasty in the 1950s. Number 2, Brian Leetch. Brian Leetch's list of accolades is a mile long. 2 Norris trophies, a Calder, Conn Smythe, and a Stanley Cup with the Rangers. Leetch was described as magical by legendary teammate Mark Messier. 3, Pierre Pilote. One of the NHL's best defensemen in the 1950s, Pierre won 3 Norris trophies and a Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks in 1961. 4, Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr is the greatest defenseman of all time, as he helped revolutionize the position en route to a record 8 Norris trophies on top of 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Art Ross trophies, 3 Harts, 2 Conn Smythes, and a Calder. 5, Nicklas Lidstrom. Another legendary defenseman, Nick Lidstrom won 7 Norris trophies and 4 Stanley Cups. The Red Wings never missed the playoffs during his 20-year career, the longest streak of playoff appearances for a player in league history. 6, Phil Housley. Phil Housley was drafted 6th overall by the Buffalo Sabres in 1982 and played in 21 seasons, totaling 1,232 points for 8 different franchises. 7, Phil Esposito. The greatest goal scorer of his generation, Phil Esposito won 2 Stanley Cups and scored 156 points in 1976-77 amidst his run of 5 scoring titles in 6 seasons. 8, Alexander Ovechkin. The Great 8, the greatest goal scorer in NHL history, Alex Ovechkin finally won the Stanley Cup in 2018, accomplishing the feat that had eluded him for his entire career. Ovi has the chance to challenge Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 career goals, as he recently became the first player in NHL history to score 30-plus goals in 18 seasons. 9, Gordie Howe. Plenty of elite players have worn the number 9, partially due to the influence of Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe. His 6 Stanley Cups in a Red Wings uniform, on top of 6 Art Ross and Hart trophies, don't even begin to tell the story of how special a player he was. 10, Guy Lafleur. To be the all-time leading scorer in Montreal Canadiens history, the most successful franchise in the league, you have to be pretty special. A special player indeed, Guy Lafleur tallied 1,246 points and won 5 Stanley Cups with the Habs, on top of a slew of individual awards. 11, Mark Messier. The only player to ever captain 2 NHL franchises to the Stanley Cup, Mark Messier went from being a highly physical player to a finesse player and excelled at both. He was the heart of the Edmonton Oilers dynasty alongside Gretzky and brought the New York Rangers their first championship in 54 years, boasting an awards list that runs a mile long. 12, Jarome Iginla. The franchise leader in points for the Calgary Flames with 1,095, Jarome Iginla won or contended for nearly every award available to an NHL forward in a career that culminated with his induction to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2020. 13, Pavel Datsyuk. The Magic Man had the slickest hands in the league, and his stellar two-way play earned him 3 Selke trophies. Pavel Datsyuk tallied 918 points in 953 games with the Detroit Red Wings, whom he helped to win 2 Stanley Cups. 14, Brendan Shanahan. Another Red Wings legend, his 2,489 penalty minutes and 1,354 points highlight a career that saw him win 3 Stanley Cups with Detroit. 15. Milt Schmidt. You know you're good when Bobby Orr considers you the greatest Bruin of all time. Schmidt was a 2-time Stanley Cup champion and won the Hart Trophy in 1951. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame more than half a century ago when John Diefenbaker and John F. Kennedy were in office for their respective countries. 16. Brett Hull. The 5th highest goal scorer in league history, Brett Hull won Stanley Cups in Dallas and Detroit. Known as one of the game's greatest snipers, Hull was an elite goal scorer at all levels of the game and recorded 5 consecutive seasons of at least 50 goals. 17. Jari Kurri. A crucial part of the Edmonton Oilers dynasty in the 1980s that won 5 Stanley Cups, Jari Kurri was the first Finnish player to be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. He was the NHL's leading scorer in 1985-86 and did a lot of the defensive work that allowed Wayne Gretzky to be as effective as possible offensively. 18. Serge Savard. A dominant defenseman and respected presence in the dressing room of the greatest collections of hockey talent ever assembled, the Montreal Canadiens of the 1970s, Serge Savard won 8 Stanley Cups and was awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy in 1969. 19. Steve Yzerman. Captaining the Red Wings for 2 decades, Steve Yzerman won the Stanley Cup 3 times and scored 1,755 goals, which is good for 7th all-time. He won numerous individual awards and was a tremendous all-around player. 20. Luc Robitaille. The 2nd highest scoring left winger of all time with 668 goals behind only Alex Ovechkin, Luc Robitaille won the Stanley Cup with the Red Wings and took home the Calder Trophy in 1987. 21. Stan Mikita. Sitting first all-time in scoring with the Chicago Blackhawks, Stan Mikita is widely regarded as the best center of the 1960s. He won the Stanley Cup in 1961, and his individual accolades include 4 Art Ross trophies and 2 Harts. 22. Mike Bossy. The greatest goal scorer of his generation, Mike Bossy recorded 60 goals 5 times in his career, in which he captured 4 Stanley Cups with the New York Islanders dynasty of the early 1980s. 23. Bob Gainey. The best defensive forward of the late 1970s, Bob Gainey won the Selke Trophy 4 years in a row from 1978 to 1981. As a crucial piece of the Montreal Canadiens dynasty, he won 5 Stanley Cups and was awarded the Conn Smythe in 79. 24. Chris Chelios. Holding the record for most seasons played by a defenseman at 26, Chris Chelios lifted 3 Stanley Cups between the Montreal Canadiens and Detroit Red Wings and also won a trio of Norris trophies. 25. Joe Nieuwendyk. Another 3-time Stanley Cup champion, this time with 3 different franchises in the Calgary Flames, Dallas Stars, and New Jersey Devils. Joe Nieuwendyk took home the Conn Smythe Trophy with the Stars. 26. Peter Stastny. The first European player ever inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, Peter Stastny's only award was the Calder Trophy in 1981, but he impressively tallied the 2nd most points throughout the 1980s, behind only Wayne Gretzky, despite being undrafted. 27. Scott Niedermayer. An offensive force as a defenseman throughout his entire career, Scott Niedermayer is a 4-time Cup champion with the New Jersey Devils and Anaheim Ducks. He took home the Norris Trophy in 2004 and the Conn Smythe in 2007 when he captained the Ducks to their first ever championship. 28. Steve Larmer. Before Patrick Marleau and Phil Kessel were the Iron Men of the NHL, that distinction belonged to Steve Larmer. Larmer played 884 regular season games in a row and won the Calder Trophy in 1983 and the Stanley Cup with the Rangers in 1994. 29. Ken Dryden. One of the best goalies in the history of the game, Ken Dryden won 5 Vezina trophies and 6 Stanley Cups with Montreal. Perhaps the most interesting fact about Dryden was that he won the Cup as well as the Conn Smythe Trophy before he ever lost a game in the regular season. 30. Martin Brodeur. Martin Brodeur stands as the all-time leader in wins, shutouts, saves, and games played by a goalie. He won 3 Stanley Cups and 4 Vezina trophies with the New Jersey Devils. Good luck topping that. 31. Grant Fuhr. No goalie was ever better at turning in a big stop at a key moment in the 80s, and Grant Fuhr's 5 Stanley Cups and Vezina Trophy prove it. His save numbers wouldn't look very good in today's NHL, but he played in a much different era for tendies. 32. Dale Hunter. The only player in NHL history to have more than 1,000 points and 3,000 penalty minutes, but Despite spending so much time in the penalty box, he ended his career with 9 20-goal seasons and 6 with at least 70 points. 33. Patrick Roy. Revolutionizing the butterfly style of goaltending, Patrick Roy won the Stanley Cup 4 times between the Canadiens and Avalanche, as well as the Conn Smythe and Vezina trophies 3 times each. 34. Austin Matthews. The best goal scorer in the NHL today will win his 3rd scoring title and has also won the Calder, Hart, and Ted Lindsay. Finishing the season with 69 goals, he nearly became the first 70-goal scorer since 1993. 35. Tony Esposito. The first NHL goaltender to ever wear the number, Tony Esposito won a Calder and 3 Vezina trophies. He sits 10th all-time in wins among goaltenders with 423. 36. John Gibson. John Gibson has been a solid netminder in Anaheim's crease for a decade, even in recent years when the team in front of him wasn't that great. The 2016 William N. Jennings Trophy winner has a career .910 save percentage. 37. Patrice Bergeron. One of the greatest two-way players the NHL has ever seen, Patrice Bergeron won a record 6 Selke trophies and was nominated in 12 consecutive seasons. Oh yeah, he also helped the Bruins capture the Stanley Cup in 2011. 38. Pavel Demitra. Pavel Demitra scored 304 goals in his NHL career, highlighted by a 93-point campaign in 2002-03. After his departure from the NHL, Demitra and the rest of his KHL team were killed in a plane crash in 2011. 39. Dominik Hasek. Winning a whopping 6 Vezina trophies with the Buffalo Sabres, Dominik Hasek was forced to adopt the number as 31 was taken by Grant Fuhr. The Dominator also won 2 Stanley Cups in Detroit and was named NHL MVP twice. 40. Henrik Zetterberg. Another Red Wings legend, Zetterberg spent 15 years with the team and won the Stanley Cup in 2008, also taking home the Conn Smythe Trophy in a year when he led the postseason in goals and points. 41. Craig Anderson. The best goaltender in Ottawa Senators franchise history, a presence missed to this day, is Craig Anderson. His career save percentage is .912 and goals against average .286, and he was able to outplay the likes of Carey Price, Tuukka Rask, and Henrik Lundqvist in deep playoff runs. 42. David Backes. One of the most respected power forwards of his time, David Backes served as St. Louis Blues captain for 5 years and put up 561 points in a 15-year career of 965 games played with the Blues, Boston Bruins, and Anaheim Ducks. 43. Martin Biron. Playing for 16 years in the league, Martin Biron had a pair of strong seasons with the Philadelphia Flyers in 2007-08 and 2008-09, winning 30 and 29 games respectively. 44. Chris Pronger. The best shutdown defenseman of his era and winner of the 2000 Norris Trophy, Chris Pronger became the first blue liner since Bobby Orr to win the Hart Trophy. He was feared in the NHL for his size and tenacity and helped lead the Anaheim Ducks to their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. 45. Jonathan Bernier. A hybrid stand-up butterfly-style goalie, Jonathan Bernier won the Stanley Cup with the Los Angeles Kings in 2012, though he didn't play much that year. Bernier's career save percentage is .912 and goals against average .277. 46. David Krejci. A backbone of the Boston Bruins for over 15 years, David Krejci was a big reason the Bruins won the Stanley Cup in 2011, as he put up 6 points in the 7-game Cup final against Vancouver. 47. Torrey Krug. Recording 50-plus points during his best years with the Boston Bruins, the undersized defenseman may not be a fan favorite in St. Louis these days, but he's had a solid career. 48. Scott Young. Scott Young had a lengthy career in the NHL spanning 16 seasons. He retired with 757 points and having won 2 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins and Colorado Avalanche. 49. Ivan Barbashev. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion, winning 1 each with the Blues and Golden Knights, Ivan Barbashev was a huge deadline addition for Vegas that paid off tremendously last season. 50. Corey Crawford. A 2-time William M. Jennings Trophy winner as the goalie to let in the least amount of goals while playing 25-plus games, Corey Crawford backstopped the Chicago Blackhawks to 2 Stanley Cups in 2013 and 2015. 51. Frans Nielsen. Frans Nielsen spent 15 years in the NHL between the Islanders and Red Wings and was the first Danish citizen to play in the league. Nielsen was a prime example of how value can exceed far beyond statistics as a very defensively sound forward. 52. Adam Foote. A reliable defenseman in Quebec and Colorado, Adam Foote was a contributing piece of the Avalanche's Stanley Cup victories in 1996 and 2001. His number 52 was retired by the Avalanche in 2013. 53, Jeff Skinner. The only player to suit up in 1,000-plus games, yet 0 in the playoffs, Jeff Skinner won the Calder Trophy in 2011 and has been a solid offensive player for many seasons. 54, Adam McQuaid. Though he only recorded 73 points in his 512-game career, Darth McQuaid was a solid stay-at-home defenseman who won the Stanley Cup with the Bruins in 2011. 55, Larry Murphy. A 4-time Stanley Cup champion, winning 2 with the Penguins and 2 with the Red Wings, Larry Murphy sits 5th on the NHL's all-time scoring list among defensemen. 56, Sergei Zubov. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Rangers and Stars, the 2019 Hockey Hall of Fame inductee holds the Stars franchise records for defensemen with 549 points and 839 games played. 57, David Perron. A 2019 Stanley Cup champion with St. Louis, David Perron has spent time on 5 different NHL franchises, but has seen the most success with the Blues. 58, Chris Letang. One of 3 players to suit up in 1,000 games for the Penguins, Chris Letang is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion and the only Pittsburgh defenseman to record 500-plus points. 59, Roman Josi. In 13 seasons with the Nashville Predators, Roman Josi helped the team win the 2018 President's Trophy and took home the Norris in 2020. He remains one of the best offensive D-men in the league today as the captain in Smashville. 60, Jose Theodore. His 16-year career had its ups and downs, but his performance in 2001-02 would probably lock up the spot by itself. Theodore finished the season with a .931 save percentage with the Montreal Canadiens, earning him the Hart and Vezina trophies. 61, Rick Nash. A key piece of the Blue Jackets and Rangers cores for years, Rick Nash holds basically every offensive franchise record in Columbus and won the Rocket Richard Trophy in 2004. 62, Carl Hagelin. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Penguins, Carl Hagelin recorded 296 points in 713 games as a solid top 9 forward. 63, Brad Marchand. While Brad Marchand is known around the league as the biggest rat in the game, it can't be denied that he is also one of the league's best. His 929 career points and 2011 Stanley Cup championship back up his spot as one of the NHL's top offensive forces. 64, Mikael Granlund. Recording 543 points in 818 games played, Mikael Granlund's best season came in 2016-17 with the Wild, when he put up 69 points. 65, Erik Karlsson. One of the best defensemen in the league for the better part of a decade, Erik Karlsson has won 3 Norris trophies and led the Ottawa Senators to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2016-17. 66, Mario Lemieux. Super Mario stands up as one of the very best players to ever lace up a pair of skates, winning 2 Stanley Cups and Conn Smythe trophies, as well as a staggering 6 Art Ross trophies and 3 Harts. He's considered by many to be the second greatest player in hockey history. 67, Max Pacioretty. The former Montreal Canadiens captain has been a very solid player since entering the league, recording 668 points in 901 games. His only piece of hardware was the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy in 2012. 68, Jaromir Jagr. In one of the most incredible careers of any player in history, Jaromir Jagr played alongside Mario Lemieux with Pittsburgh, winning 2 Stanley Cups, along with many individual awards. He went on to play in 24 seasons in his NHL career with 9 different teams and sits second in all-time points behind Wayne Gretzky. 69, Andrew Desjardins. Andrew Desjardins takes this spot by default. For some unknown, completely unexplained reason, players seem to avoid using this number. I hear it's way more popular in beer leagues though. Only 2 players have ever worn 69, and Mel Engelstad was the other, albeit only for 2 games. 70, Braden Holtby. Winning the Vezina Trophy in 2016, Braden Holtby backstops the Washington Capitals to their first ever Stanley Cup in 2018. 71, Evgeny Malkin. Evgeny Malkin has served as a key piece of the Pittsburgh Penguins core since being drafted 2nd overall in 2004, and would be the face of any other franchise that didn't have a Sidney Crosby. In addition to winning the Hart, Art Ross, and Pearson trophies in 2011-12, Malkin also won 3 Stanley Cups and the Conn Smythe Trophy in 2009. 72. Sergei Bobrovsky. Sergei Bobrovsky has been one of the most reliable goalies since his debut in 2010-11. His 2 Vezina trophies and his career .915 save percentage back this up. He also was rock solid in helping the Florida Panthers reach the Stanley Cup final last season. 73. Tyler Toffoli. A 2014 Stanley Cup champion with the Los Angeles Kings, Tyler Toffoli has since moved around the league a bit, but has recorded a solid 519 points in 810 games played. 74. John Carlson. A solid two-way defenseman, John Carlson was a key piece in the Capitals' run to the 2018 Stanley Cup and holds the goal record for all-time Washington D-men with 151. 75. Hall Gill. A Stanley Cup champion with Pittsburgh in 2009, Hall Gill recorded 184 points in 1,108 games played. 76. PK Subban. Winning the Norris Trophy in 2013, PK Subban was an electric offensive defenseman that recorded 467 points in 835 games with the Canadiens, Predators, and Devils. 77. Ray Bourque. The all-time leader for defensemen in career goals, assists, and points, Ray Bourque won an impressive 5 Norris Trophies with the Bruins, and after 22 years hoisted the Stanley Cup in his last ever game with the Colorado Avalanche. 78. Mark Pouliot. Selected 22nd overall in the 2003 draft, Mark Pouliot recorded just 57 points in his career that spanned 192 NHL games. 79. Andrei Markov. Spending 16 seasons with the Montreal Canadiens, Andrei Markov was a reliable and underrated presence on the Habs' back end. He received Norris votes in 6 different seasons as well. 80. Nick Antropov. During his 13-year career, Nick Antropov tallied 465 points and peaked with 67 in 2009-10 with the Atlanta Thrashers. 81. Marian Hossa. A 3-time Stanley Cup champion with the Chicago Blackhawks, Marian Hossa was one of the game's best defensive forwards throughout his career, his number 81 now retired in the Windy City. 82. Martin Straka. Martin Straka was consistent during his 15 seasons in the NHL, scoring at least 20 goals in 6 seasons, finishing with 717 career points. 83. Ales Hemsky. One of the best Czech forwards in NHL history, Ales Hemsky recorded 572 points in 845 games with the Oilers, Senators, Stars, and Canadiens. He's one of few to wear the number for an extended time. 84. Mikhail Grabovski. Only 8 players have laid claim to the number. Among them, Mikhail Grabovski is the only one to score 20 goals in 3 different seasons. 85. Peter Kilma. A 1990 Stanley Cup champion with the Edmonton Oilers, Peter Kilma spent 13 seasons in the NHL and scored at least 30 goals in half of them. 86. Nikita Kucherov. One of the NHL's premier forwards today, Nikita Kucherov has scored at least 100 points 4 times and is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Tampa Bay Lightning, also winning the Hart, Art Ross, and Ted Lindsay in 2019. 87. Sidney Crosby. The best player of the last generation, and Sid the Kid has still got it. 3 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythes, Harts, Rocket Richards, and Art Rosses, 3 Ted Lindsay Awards, and 10 All-Star Game appearances. Need I say more? 88. Patrick Kane. One of, if not the best American players in NHL history, Patrick Kane is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion and has also taken home a Conn Smythe, Art Ross, Calder, Hart, and Ted Lindsay. Showtime is simply electric on the ice. 89. Alexander McGillney. A Stanley Cup champion with the 2000 New Jersey Devils, Alexander McGillney scored 76 goals in 1992-93 and finished with 1,032 career points. 90. Ryan O'Reilly. In his first season after being traded to the Blues in 2019, Ryan O'Reilly brought St. Louis its first Stanley Cup, also winning the Conn Smythe and Selke Trophy in the process. He's also played for Colorado and Toronto, but has found a new home in Nashville. 91. Sergei Fedorov. Perhaps the best Russian player ever, Fedorov won the Hart, Pearson, and Selke trophies in 93-94 and lifted 3 Stanley Cups with the Detroit Red Wings, becoming the first Russian player to score 1,000 points. 92. Gabriel Landeskog. After winning the Calder Trophy in 2011-12, Landeskog was named the youngest captain in NHL history at the time, going on to capture the Stanley Cup in 2022. He's tallied 571 points in 738 games. 93, Doug Gilmour. One of the very best defensive forwards of the 90s, Doug Gilmour won the Selke Trophy in the 1992-93 season and put up 1,414 points across his 20-season career. 94, Ryan Smith. Wearing the number 94 for 18 seasons, the most of anyone to wear the number, Ryan Smith got consideration for the Selke Trophy in 4 seasons and finished his career with 842 points. 95, Matt Duchene. The 2009 third overall pick, Matt Duchene has been a consistent point producer since entering the league, recording 808 points in 1,055 games. 96, Thomas Holmstrom. Thomas Holmstrom won 4 Stanley Cups with the Detroit Red Wings, his career high in goals coming in 2005-06 with 30. 97, Connor McDavid. The best player in the world today, bar none, Connor McDavid has put up a staggering 982 points in 644 games. The youngest captain in league history has won 5 Art Ross trophies, 3 Harts, a Rocket Richard, and a Ted Lindsay. The only thing missing on his long resume is the Stanley Cup. 98, Mikhail Sergachev. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Lightning, Sergachev has dealt with injuries lately, but is still a solid young defenseman for Tampa Bay, recording 257 points in 475 games played. Will this spot eventually be occupied by a certain young number 98 in Chicago? Probably, but not yet. 99, Wayne Gretzky. There is no runner-up, there is no argument, there is no debate. There is no relationship between a player and a number more iconic than Wayne Gretzky and the number 99. His resume speaks for itself, and the number 99 has been retired league-wide, meaning no one will ever challenge Gretzky for the spot of the best player to ever wear the number. But which jersey is your favorite? Do you think we missed any honorable mentions? Leave your thoughts in the comments.